In accordance with the state's sunshine law, adequate notice of this meeting was provided by sending a notice of the time, date, and location, and to the extent known, the agenda of this meeting on January 3rd, 2017, and on September 22nd, 2017, to the Princeton Packet, the Times, the Home News Tribune, and West Windsor and Plainsboro Public Libraries. Copies of this notice have been placed in the board office and in each of the district schools on January 3rd, 2017, and on September 22nd, 2017, and sent to Plainsboro and West Windsor Township clerks on January 3rd, 2017, and on September 22nd, 2017. Don't ask me why, but the attorneys say that we have to say the dates, so we do now. The agenda shows a closed session, which we cancel that, which is why you heard me read the opening now. Usually it gets done earlier. Just some notes on today's agenda. On the administration piece, the agenda shows a vote on a marketing communication project. There were some questions that board members had, so we're not going to be voting on that item tonight. Everything else stays the same. I believe the superintendent has some comments.
Good evening, everyone. Just wanted to make note that today we sent out a letter to the community regarding the state of the district. I hope you join me in celebrating the amazing accomplishments of our students and our staff, and celebrating the accomplishments over the last year. It would be shorter if our students didn't achieve so much, so you can blame the length to the amazing accomplishments of our faculty and our students. But again, that's been posted on the district website, sent to every parent, and shared with staff members. So I hope you take the time to read through and to celebrate those accomplishments. Thank you.
Okay. Martin Smith, the assistant superintendent, is going to give us a report on the student graduation rates.
Good evening. It's my pleasure to be able to report this evening on the graduation rates for the class of 2017, last year's senior class. Before I actually report the numbers and around the class, I'll be talking a little bit about what the graduation requirements are. So in order to graduate in terms of academic credits, each student needs to have a minimum of 120 credits in courses that are designed to meet all of the New Jersey student learning standards, including but not limited to the following. Language arts, a minimum of 20 credits or 4 years of study. American studies, 2 years of study, 5 credits. World history, 1 year of study, 5 credits. Science, 15 credit, 3 years of study, of which all needs to be a lab science, biology, chemistry, and then one other additional lab science. In mathematics, 15 credits, 3 years of mathematics, having to do with algebra, geometry, and then building a subsequent course that builds upon algebra and geometry. 15 credits or 3 years worth of credits for physical education, health and driver's ed, 5 credits, 1 total year worth of credits for that. Visual and performing arts, 5 credits, 1 year's worth of coursework there. Career ed, life skills or technical career education, 5 credits, 1 year's worth of coursework. World languages, 10 credits or 2 years worth of course requirement, and the financial literacy requirement has a 2.5 credit or a half a year course requirement. So those are the requirements that every student must meet in terms of the academics. In addition, students have an assessment that they must meet. So students graduating as members of the classes of 2017 through 2019. So last year's seniors, this year's seniors, and the current juniors have the following requirements that they must meet. They can achieve a passing score on certain PARCC assessments, or they can achieve certain scores on an alternative set assessment, such as the SAT, the PSAT, the ACT, or the AccuPlacer. Or the student can, we can submit on behalf of the district a student portfolio to the Department of Education through a process called portfolio appeals. Special education students whose individualized education plans specify an alternative way to demonstrate proficiencies continue to follow the graduation requirements that are set forth within their IEPs. Just so that people are clear, the class of 2020, which is the current 10th grade students, need to demonstrate their graduation assessment proficiency through the same alternative means of the classes of 2018 and 19, provided that they have taken every end-of-course PARC assessment for which they were eligible as of the effective date. In common English, that means that if they took one of the courses prior to this going into effect and did not take the PARC assessment, they would be exempt from that. But as of the date of this going into effect last year, they must have taken every single PARC assessment. They don't have to have passed them. They can still take the SAT, the PSAT, use another alternative assessment, but they have to have taken the PARC assessment. And then finally, the class of 2021, which is the current freshman class, ninth graders, and students thereafter, have to demonstrate proficiency by achieving a passing score of 4 or 5 on the English Language Arts 10 and the Algebra 1 assessments. They also have to have taken all end-of-course PARC assessments for courses that they have been enrolled in and for which they're eligible. Should they not achieve passing scores on these, the only other option would be to demonstrate proficiency by using the portfolio of years process. The portfolio review process. In order to obtain a New Jersey high school diploma, a student must demonstrate proficiency in both mathematics and English language arts literacy. To do this, we are able to collect a variety of coursework on a variety of tasks which we have been able to develop in district, but that have to be signed off on by the New Jersey Department of Education, and we have to demonstrate on the rubric that the student has met the knowledge and skills as articulated in New Jersey Student Learning Standards. For English language learners, they should need to satisfy the requirements for high school graduation, except they may potentially be able to demonstrate their state minimum levels of proficiency through the portfolio appeals process in their native language when available. And passage, if they use their native language as a way to be able to demonstrate proficiency, they then also must pass a demonstrated English language proficiency on a state mandated assessment. Again, in special education or 504, students with disabilities are eligible to be able to participate in an alternative assessment, dynamic learning maps, DLM, and they're not required to participate in repeated administrations of high school and, of course, PARC assessments. So for a student who is currently a freshman, for example, if they don't pass the Algebra 1 assessment, they would need to take that repeated times. But for a special education student, they'd be required to take it once in order to see whether or not they pass. But if they haven't passed, they would not then be required to take it multiple times. They could use the DLM as the way to demonstrate that. Finally, there is a requirement in code that we will report every year to the Board of Education at a public meeting tonight, no later than September 30th. The following statistics: the total number of students who graduated in the previous year, the numbers of students who graduated using a substitute competency test process, the DLM, the number of students graduated under the portfolio appeals process, the number of students who receive a state-endorsed high school diploma as a result of meeting alternative requirements as specified in their IEPs, the total number of students who were denied graduation from the 12th grade class, and then the number of students who were denied graduation from the 12th grade class solely because they failed to pass one of the assessments, either the PARC, SAT, PSAT, substitute competency test, or the portfolio appeals process. So the numbers are, last school year, 773 students graduated from the district. Of those 773 students, 752 of them graduated utilizing either PARC, PSAT, SAT, ACT, or ACT Replacer. There were 20 students who graduated using the substitute competency test process, the DLM. There was one student who graduated utilizing the portfolio appeals process. We had 0 students who had to utilize the state-endorsed alternative diploma. And we had 2 students who did not graduate, either for academic coursework, they didn't meet the 120 credit requirements successfully, or they themselves withdrew from school. And we had 0 students who did not graduate from school because they were not able to, they met all of their 120 credits, but they didn't pass any of the tests. So those are the numbers for that. Any questions from the board?
Yeah, I have a question.
Sure.
For the graduation requirements, If a student transferring from other school district, can they transfer in the credits?
Yes, whenever a student comes into the district, we do a review of their transcript, and we determine which credits would be, not just from other schools within New Jersey, but from others. We determine the equivalencies and what credits they would meet certain kind of requirements.
Gotcha. Thank you.
Sure.
Anyone else? Thank you very much.
Thank you.
That brings us to our first opportunity for public comments. The board invites thoughts and reactions on agenda items and items of concern from members of our community who are present. Each participant is asked to give his or her name and address prior to making a statement, which will be limited to 3 minutes. All statements shall be directed at the presiding officer. The public comment period will be limited to 60 minutes.
Could you press the button on the top of the microphone?
It's on now. Try it now.
Hello?
Yeah.
Okay, I'll start over with the Jeever, 24 Holland Drive, Princeton Junction. A representative from Senator Shirley Turner's office called me today as a follow-up call. She said that on October 5th or 6th, Senator Turner will introduce a bill to allow sports teams to be combined within a district when there is a safety issue. I know that all of you have worked very hard on that, especially Dr. Agarwal. Once I receive the proposed legislation, because they haven't released it just yet, but I guess they will be in another week, I'll give it to council members asking that we consider a resolution of support. Secondly, since so many of the issues of importance are discussed at committee meetings, I would encourage the board to change its policy to allow the public to attend those committee meetings. When I was a board member, we did allow those meetings to be open. We didn't take public comment as you do, the meeting tonight, but they were open to the public. I know that you publicly list, all the different meetings and when you have them, and I know that you work very hard, but there's a lot of information and discussion, really rich discussion that occurs at those committee meetings. So I would just encourage any reconsideration to allow the public to attend those meetings. I know the chairs have discretion, but as a general rule, just to have it open to the public if they would choose to come. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else?
Mr. Ferris, you and I exchanged some emails regarding capital reserves. And in one of your emails, you pointed out that upgrade of high school north HVAC controls is going to cost $8 million. Regarding my overall request that I submitted in February of 2017, it says, for example, that the HVAC for Robert Middle School was $420,000, for Dutch Neck was $190,000, and for Town Center was $153,000. So I'm extremely confused that these numbers are in the hundreds, and you're talking about $8 million. That is 2/3 of the additional funds. So I don't know, maybe we can have some clarification why the numbers are so extreme. And also, I was taking a look at the master capital project planning that the school district has for 2015 and 2020, and it doesn't show any HVAC replacement needed for high school north. So I'm confused.
Okay.
Stewart, 23 Western Main Coast. So I think with Dr. Agarwal's letter today, so it's good to see accolades. Probably would be good when Dr. Agarwal's contract to have some of these things that the public have seen. But I did review it. I think a couple of points I wanted to bring up is it'd be a little nicer if we had a few more days to review it and send it out. It's good that we sent it. It's good for people to review if they want to come to the education meeting and make comments or congratulate you or have questions. I think it's pretty hard everyone works to drop everything and come out on Tuesday night and on plan. But regardless, it's good that you know. On page 2, one concern I had, and it's just an improvement for next time, Dr. Adderhold does bring out that there's been some misinformation that's been spread about the school. But then we go into all these accolades. So what would probably be more useful is, I think, we should list what is the falsity, what are the things that are not true, and then we should address those point by point so that people can see what is being spread and to make a decision from there. So I think right now we just mentioned that there's a lot of falsehood that is very accountable, and so I think we should list what is false, and then we should address it point by point so that the public gets a fair understanding of what's going on. Page 4 is something I mentioned 2 weeks ago. We mentioned these accolades, but I think we should put links to the accolades. I'm interested. I'm proud of the school, and I'd like to see where these awards are coming from. But then I have to spend all this time trying to figure out, am I going to the right award? For example, New Jersey Monthly, it was very confusing. Then I come to find out that the results in 2016 are actually from 2014 to 2015. So it just makes things a lot easier for people to just check. We're interested to see how we're doing with other schools, those type of things. Also, I think we should be consistent. New Jersey Monthly, we do mention that we went up from the past year. We made a tremendous improvement. It was great. But then in niche.com and U.S. News, we don't mention what was the past. Did we improve? How are we doing? Regardless, I'm still proud of where we're at, but I think it would be nice. If you're going to mention it to New Jersey Monthly that we improved, then we should be consistent. We should mention on niche.com where did we stand last year, the year before, in U.S. News. Page 10 on the midterms and finals. Dr. Adderhold said that there's a problem with him using the word eliminate. The midterms, this midterm final elimination is still actually being counted. The Washington Post article that David gave on August 22nd. It was mentioned there, in 2015, quote, in 2015, Adderhold introduced a new curriculum with a larger focus on the arts and extracurricular activities. He called it a whole child, quote, approach to education, and includes no homework nights at the end of high school midterms and final exams. So, while you mentioned in your letter a concern that people they mentioned the word eliminate, still on August 22nd, about a month ago, it's still being counted in a major newspaper, Washington Post, that...
Thank you.
Okay. 2 more seconds. Anyway, all right, we're going to come more. Anyway, congratulations on the accolades. It's great. That's that whole consideration.
Okay,
I did the new setup, it was great.
Yeah.
I'm the superintendent at Fort Worth Reports in West Windsor. Dr. Adderhold, your letter was excellent. It was specific. It stated wonderful facts about what's going on in the district. It's showing how, as we move our curriculum forward, how it's benefiting our students. It's well known that the awards or the rankings that we get are actually based on information from the company prior. You said that several times over the years, so anybody that has been paying attention would know that. I have had the privilege of attending 4 back-to-school nights this year, 2 of them for my own children. I have 2 kids, but I put myself in the schools on a regular basis to make phone calls to people. I think what's going on. They seem engaged, excited. They enjoy teaching the way that the curriculum seems to be forming, the new ways of teaching. By the way, all of their slides and so forth, all their handouts in school, as far as I can tell, all years to come in different places. And I see that our students are proud, and it's showing by the way the teachers are reacting and the way kids are being benefited. So thank you very, very much for what you're doing, all of you. Thank you to our educators who are actually in school and doing research in what they need to do to ensure that we're moving this forward in the right direction. objection. And thank you to the board for all the hard work you do and putting up with what you need to put up with. I think it's great to ask questions, it's great to question, but this business of picking apart every little thing has become ridiculous. So let's do our business, let's keep our district moving, and thank you for your support.
Okay, thank you.
Good evening. I'm Thomas Princess, and I live on 600 Drive in West Windsor. I'm going to be commenting on the mock trial club at South, that's on the road, off the road. So I just want to start by saying thank you guys all so much for being here today. And we do know we believe that mock trial competitors, we already raised the atmosphere that we have at high school Southwest Windsor. So a little about myself. I'm a sophomore at the school who participates in debate and all the organizations, as well as student council. And beyond that, outside of school, I actually founded a 501c organization this year with 2 second years of training. And I'm looking for new challenges as a student. So there are tons of other students like me at South who are exploring different fields, paths, and interests in the future. And nothing quite like mock trial has surfaced so far in recent years that can show students a specific path to a career that can change their lives. Personally, the humanities will place near and dear to my heart and actively to much of the student body at South. As speech, drama, research, and debate are obvious interests for these students, and they struggle to find an avenue through which they can exercise these passions. Mock trial not only combines all these things in a cohesive way, but also allows students who are not given a position in poly-event, debate, and JSA to experience a different and perhaps more comfortable ways to get involved in the humanities at a competitive national level. With witnesses, attorneys, and judges, mock trial can serve as anyone from a leading straight musical to an introvert who loves to research but has trouble voicing his ideas. And we have the names to prove on the sign-up sheet, there are no shortages of current students interested in mock trial. Time and time again, South has shown that the student body is one that is constantly looking for new challenges to improve upon themselves academically. And it's the job of the Board of Education to create an atmosphere of South that allows students to find their passion and come to it. So I'm sure that with the excellent leadership of Veronica, Chris, along with other students that are involved with me today, we'll be able to create a club of South that can do just that. Thank you.
Thank you.
I'm a Windsor at 24 Vanderbilt Drive. I'm also a sophomore, and I'm here to advocate for the creation of a mock trial club. So many kids in the past years have tried to create a mock trial club, and it's sad that they've all failed. But one difference between these kids and our team here today is that I think we are some of the most passionate students about this topic who have ever tried to start a mock trial club. And in my past year at South, and also this year, I participated in NUS debate, JSA, and many other forms of debate on a national level. And I've noticed that there's a missing piece of the puzzle here. And that kids feel that they can't participate in something that actually might be a real life and that they might want to do in the future. So we want something that kids not only discuss international policy and international problems, but we want to provide something for students where they can discuss national policy, and this can be provided by the mock trial. So we also want to provide an opportunity for kids to improve their leadership skills, also their collaboration skills, and most importantly, their public speaking skills. So throughout working with Veronica and Chris, and all of our current officers over there, I think we made some pretty good headway in this mock trial club, and it would be really sad to see it not happen. So I strongly suggest that you guys pass this club. I think it's a great opportunity. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hello, my name is Ruben Meyer. I live in Windsor-Plainsboro, and I again advocate for the formation of a mock trial club. All throughout today, you've heard why a mock trial club is beneficial for South, but here's some specific reasons why we need a mock trial club. First, mock trial was founded with the intent to teach American students how the judicial system actually works. And through the formation of a mock trial club, we can teach this to countless children and have the ability to teach kids how the Supreme Court actually functions. Moreover, this club promotes researching skills, which will sooner or later become necessary. As I'm sure you all know, research becomes necessary no matter what career you're into. Thus, a mock trial club is vital in formation. Moreover, it improves public speaking, and as again you all know, public speaking is a vital part of any career choice. Thus, we must improve public speaking by creating a mock trial club. And even if you do not like even if you do not like public speaking and debate, you can still be a witness, which encourages acting and drama. Witnesses in mock trial are as important as attorneys, and they encourage acting and drama, which, as Tommy previously said, are extremely vital careers that many students do go into. Finally, it encourages practical on-the-spot thinking. Mock trial through cross-examinations and stuff, through cross-examinations, provide practical on-the-spot thinking that is again necessary in future careers. Finally, this is a real takeaway. Mock trial emphasizes teamwork and cooperation beyond all else. By simply witnessing a round of mock trial, you see that teamwork and cooperation are the major factors into who wins and who loses a mock trial event. Thus, by creating a mock trial club, we highly emphasize teamwork the teamwork of students, and the collaboration in order to win mock trial. Thus, please create a mock trial club.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
I would just like to start out by saying thank you to all for coming out here and helping us and the district function as it does. Thank you for listening to the mock trial. I'm going to take a more personal route here and talk to you about why mock trial is so important to me. For me personally, the idea of being a lawyer first came into being when I was just 9 years old, and my mother told me that I really like lawyers because I love to argue, and I have a passion for history. I finally took this statement more seriously than it was most likely intended, and was soon enrolled in several public speaking activities. Then, a few years later, I first got to experience what it must feel like to be an actual lawyer, and I got the opportunity to get a mock trial experience in my debate club. The feeling of being a lawyer in a very real court setting and being able to defend my clients after hours of research was exhilarating then, and is exhilarating now. Mock trial will provide me and many others at South with a platform to discover the courtroom in a competitive setting, and will provide the resources to help us delve further into the world of legality. So for me personally, the idea of wanting to be a lawyer was really more of a social route. When I was in middle school at back in Boca, I learned about Bethel Lockley, who was the first female lawyer in the U.S. And it took me several years of petitioning to be admitted to a law school and then to the Washington, D.C. bar. And eventually she worked her way up to become the first female lawyer to argue in front of the Supreme Court. And I was really inspired by her passion then, and so I started to immerse myself further into legal history, and I soon found myself wrapped up in the idea of wanting to become a lawyer. And I think for me, as well as many other people in the school, mock trial will be an extraordinary experience, and our first experience actually being in a courtroom setting, instead of just being looking at it from the outside in, and I really look forward to participating. There's a reason mock trial exists in so many schools and universities across the globe. It's because of its educational value. Mock trial is so multifaceted in its conduct, it allows students to be creative and exercise their own judgment within environments, as well as provide students with opportunities they wouldn't otherwise have in a school environment, such as allowing students to explore the legal system from several unique standpoints. For many, mock trial is an introduction to a career path that they may follow their whole life. For others, it's a hobby that demands certain skills and teaches lessons that will last a lifetime. Both Rhea and I are passionate about legality and morality, and inspired by the many years that have shaped our experience in the country. And I hope that we, as well as the other students, will get the opportunity to use mock trial as a stepping stone for our future process. Thank you.
Thank you.
My name is Neil Sindel, I'm here to Burlington Circle, West Windsor, and unlike the previous speakers you mentioned, I'm actually an upperclassman at South, and I unfortunately graduating this year. I won't get to do the full mock trial experience, but as you heard, these students are very passionate about it, and I'm just going to speak about the history of why we don't have mock trial at South. So this is an organization that's been tried for the last 4 years, but we got rejected by the New Jersey Bar Association for 2 years because we didn't have a New Jersey accredited lawyer, and in the 2 years after that, because our advisor wasn't able to comply with these standards that are set by the New Jersey Bar, the standards are actually higher than the debate club and all UNT we have currently at South. However, West Windsor North does have a mock trial team, and this is the first year that we have a lawyer that will be able to be part of the Bar Association and get the club approved. So as you see, we clearly have the demonstrated students that would like to create this organization, and this is the first year the team is able to make it past West Windsor South and to the Board of Education because we now comply with these standards. So I would urge you to help the West Windsor South create this mock trial association, and this is an opportunity that these students clearly demonstrated that they're going to utilize and make sure that it becomes a club that will be at South for hopefully several years to come.
Okay, thank you.
Good evening, Bruce Shelley, President of the Teachers Association. I'm glad I'm not on the chair. And also, great job. And I do also want to comment that the House This reminds me of his father when they had him as a freshman in 1987. What I'd like to do is I'd like to come up and I'd like to personally invite the board members, if you're available, to come and attend the hurricane relief hostage event that the teachers are putting on October 6th at High School North. So if you'd like the link to attend, it's up here that I'll give it to you personally, but I would also like to invite sitting board members, if you'd like to join teachers and support staff and administrators in helping to serve dinner, we would also like to have you join us too. So thank you very much.
Okay, thank you. Did I hear that right, that you had students in 1987?
No.
Classmates. Anyone else? Okay, just a couple of comments on what we've heard. To the students with the mock trial, you did a very good job. I'm sure you'll enjoy the year. Mrs. Searick, you were talking about the timing of the letter from the superintendent and wishing that it had come out earlier so that people had time to read it. I'll let you know that there's no expiration date on throwing back compliments on what you've read, so if you want to come back next meeting and continue to say good things about the school district and the superintendent, feel free. There was no reason, there's nothing to vote on or anything, so there's nothing, no reason why 2 days ago was any better or worse than today to issue it. Concerning the heating ventilation at High School North, the $8 million is a figure that came from our architect. There is a lot of work that needs to be done at that school. As far as comparing it to, I forget the exact numbers, but $400,000 at another school, these are different types of projects. You'll see something about carpeting one room and then carpeting a building. It's called carpeting, but there are different prices. So I hope that clears up the confusion on why the numbers were different. But there are different levels of work at each building. All right. With that, it brings us to committee reports, administration facilities.
Thank you. The Administration and Facilities Committee met on Tuesday, September 19th. We began our meeting with a presentation by District Architect George Duthie and his associate Phil Russo. They presented a conceptual plan of the proposed addition and alterations at Maurice Hawk School. The committee next reviewed the high school graduation report for 2017 that Martin Smith presented tonight. We discussed the first draft of the proposed calendar for the 2019-2020 school year. The proposed calendar will be shared with the Superintendent's Advisory Council and PTA presidents for further feedback, and once that's done, it will return to the A&F committee before we move it forward to the full board. The committee reviewed the current district plan for mentoring new teachers. So moving forward tonight for a second reading and vote, is Policy and Regulation 3126, District Mentoring Plan. This policy had its first reading at our meeting in August, 22nd was the date. The administration made some slight modifications to the regulation based on feedback from the committee. The modification was that it related to how the district reports compliance of the mentoring plan to the New Jersey Department of Education. Finally, the administration discussed the process of interviewing 3 firms to support the district in visual communication strategies and increased engagement with the community. Following the interviews, the administration recommended that the graphic design and public relations agency and studio would be the best fit for our needs. The proposal included a development of a visual brand identity to be used for both online presence and print material, a brand guidelines manual to serve as a roadmap for future brand use, and graphic design support that included the development of posters, brochures, and direct mail. Since our meeting last week, we had a lot of feedback from board members, so we've decided to hold off on voting on that tonight, and we will continue this conversation about this proposal at our next A&F meeting, which will be held on Wednesday, October 11th.
Thank you. Any questions? In finance?
Sure. The Finance Committee met on September 19th. The committee reviewed the proposed agenda items for tonight's meeting and recommended approval of the items. Staff provided an update on the audit, reporting that the audit is progressing nicely. Staff also provided an update on the summer construction. The projects slated for this summer were substantially completed prior to the start of school. On some projects, there were some punch list items or permit issues still to be resolved. Dr. Russo reported that the start of school went well. Staff were able to complete a variety of projects, such as room painting over the summer. Transportation also did well. While there were some glitches, as there always are, it went well overall, and staff is working to resolve those problems. Staff updated the committee on documents needed for the Quality School Accountability Consortium. Dr. Russo reported that staff had found ways to reduce our copier expenses. They are also looking to implement a third-party 403B provider to handle compliance with 403B transactions. This would be at no cost to the district, as the cost is borne by the providers, and reduce risk to the district. This is something that Larry used to personally do, and we're going to do that more professionally. The committee discussed a list of projects to use the additional $261,000 in state aid for facility maintenance. This includes projects like boiler alarms, cafeteria seating, water filler stations, flooring, and painting. Staff are also working busily to close out some old SDA grants. Dr. Adderholt gave the committee an update on the status of the demographic study. Basically, they need to wait until some specific data point arrives in mid-October. The next committee meeting is scheduled for October 11th.
Thank you. Any questions? That's student personnel. Okay, that brings us to administration. Can I have a motion on items 1, 2, 3, 5, and 6? Isaac and Michelle. Any questions? Discussion?
Mr. Chang.
Yes.
Ms. Hurst.
Yes.
Ms. Hill.
Yes.
Ms. Juliana.
Yes.
Ms. Groove.
Yes.
Mr. Weiss. Mr. Weiss.
Yes.
Mrs. Delazon.
Yes.
Ms. Gish.
Yes.
Mr. Blair.
Yes. Okay. Curriculum, can I have a motion on item 1, YT and Zena? Any questions, comments?
Okay, start with Ms. Hurst.
Yes.
Ms. Hill.
Yes.
Ms. Juliana.
Yes.
Ms. Groove.
Yes.
Mr. Weiss.
Yes.
Ms. Delazon.
Yes.
Ms. Gish.
Yes.
Mr. Blair.
Yes.
And Mr. Chang.
Yes.
Finance, I have a motion on items 1 through 17. Taylor and Rachel. Any questions on the finance items?
Okay, we'll start with Ms. Hill.
Yes.
Ms. Juliana.
Yes.
Ms. Groove.
Yes.
Mr. Weiss.
Yes.
Ms. Delazon.
Yes.
Ms. Gish.
Yes.
Mr. Blair.
Yes.
Mr. Chang.
Yes.
And Ms. Hurst.
Yes.
personnel. There's a motion on item 1 plus the green addendum. Yeah. Any questions or comments on personnel? Yes.
Yeah, regarding the resignation of James Smith, I want to make a comment. For my fellow board members, my sons are members of the South football team. Coach Mears is one of the finest men we have ever met in our life. Most of you know him as a football coach, but he's so much more than that. He's a caring and loving person, and will go to great lengths to help those around him. Over the summer, we had the chance to meet him, meet Coach Mears. I was touched by how much he cared about the lives of the team members in the football team. He was not only a coach to them, but a life mentor. My kids admire the amount of the work the coach puts in every day to ensure the best possibility of the success of every player on the field and off the field. By letting go of Coach Mears, the 44 young men in the South football team will not only lose a great coach, but a mentor in life. So please, if you are not going to do it for anyone else of him, at least do it for those 44 young men in the back.
Okay. All right. Just to be clear, he's resigned. Okay. Okay, so we have a motion. Any other comments on personnel?
Yes. Yes, except the resignation of James Mears. No, that item. Thanks.
Ms. Gage?
Yes.
Blair?
Yes.
Mr. Chen? Yes. Ms. Hurd?
Yes.
Ms. Hill?
Yes.
Okay. Approval of minutes. I just want to point out there's a revision in the minutes that came out in our packet, but that's only because, if I'm reading this right, in the item about the closed session, there was one of the minutes are the same. There's just an item in the closed session about the reasons for going into closed session. It's just one of the changes in the table here. Good. All right. I don't remember what it is, but Bonnie can. He's going to tell. Bonnie?
Yeah, it was the record of NRL 1828-17, so it's not on the agenda, and the agreement for verification is not on.
All right, so the minutes themselves were correct, and what was said closed session just didn't appear there. And when it get published, it will be now. Any other questions? Those in favor of approving the minutes say aye. Aye. Opposed? Okay, any board liaison reports? Any new business? As a second opportunity for public comment, 15 minutes will be provided at the end of the meeting for public comments. All statements shall be directed to the presiding officer. And again, the public comment will be limited to 15 minutes. Anyone? No.
Counselor, I hope that you're very glad, very clearly about those students that they went to family trainings. I think that's awesome. And regarding the letter that this dialogue said, it's awesome to know that our student body is doing so great. I just have a quick question for you, Mr. Acon. When was the last time that our school district received the blue ribbon award? You know?
The blue ribbon is no longer provided or offered. They stopped that program.
I read that Bradford schools received it last year, 2016. Okay, I'll forward you the document.
I look forward to seeing it.
Thank you.
The second piece of that is, if so, what percent of students are accessing services from our district? That may be actually a question. And apart from that, I think the young men and women that were here this afternoon, they've convinced me at least that it actually should be long term. So I think we can apply the funding necessary to make it possible, and I would hope between now and spring semester there is a program.
Okay. Anyone else? Okay, as far as the mock trial, we've approved the advisor now. That was part of the agenda. And as far as the funding, I will point out, like a lot of concerned parents, he's volunteering. There's, if you would notice on our agenda here, we have, just on the addendum, there are there are 3 others, so it's a total of 4 volunteer positions. And if you look at the personnel agenda, there are about 14 volunteer positions in robotics. So one of the strengths of this district is the parents and community members willing to pitch in and support our students. As far as students out of the district getting services, I'm not sure, let the superintendent answer that.
So without knowing the specifics of the question, I guess I would need to speak to you a little bit more on the side, but in general terms, there are students that live outside the boundaries of Windsor-Plainsboro who do not access services from the district. There are students that live and reside within the confines of the district that attend non-public schools. There is some obligation under 192, 193 to provide some nursing services, to provide some textbook supports to some of the non-publics. Under our federal grant dollars in Title 1, 2, and 3, there's some obligation to work with schools like
French American School.
Tonight you can see in the curriculum committee, number 1 for curriculum was an approval of some funds to French American School. Those are the same things that work. They're district residents that attend other schools, and we have obligations under things like IDEA. The only potential that I can think about is occasionally with special services, we may contract with another district to accept a student on a tuition basis for a special education program. For instance, perhaps at High School North with our LARCS program, our cognitively disabled program. There's a requirement under code to look for shared service arrangements and opportunities with neighboring districts that have specialty programs. So there may be something like that where you might have a non-public pupil attend district through a contract, and that will be approved by the Board of Education. However, the student that lives in Hamilton can't come to Windsor-Plainsboro to attend school. We do not accept tuition-based students from outside of the district for regular education students. And anyone who lives outside the boundaries that may be coming here is doing so illegally, and then we will pursue them financially.
Dr. Adams, can I clarify one?
Please.
The only other opportunity that may occur would be through the Youth Educational Stability Act. If we have any students who went homeless while living in our district but are now misplaced and living elsewhere, we are responsible for their education and transportation. In addition, if that act also includes that if there was a court involvement with a custody order where stability for the child would be best placed in the school district where they last went to school, maybe here, we would maintain that school until stability is created in the home for that child. So those are 2 that I deal with on a fairly regular basis.
Okay, thank you. Can I have a motion to adjourn? Wisely and Taylor. All those in favor of adjourning say aye. Aye. Opposed? Again, thank you for all coming out tonight.